Latest episode of Better Humans at Work. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Terry Doloughty. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Terry.
No, a pleasure to be here. I love seeing you put these videos out and giving people a chance to talk about their work.
Yeah, well, a little background about Terry. He's the founder of B.O.S.S or B.O.S Consulting, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And with 30 years in both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors, Terry has seen it all. He created B.O.S Consulting in order to share his experiences and support the development of next generation leaders. Throughout his career, he's worked with business owners, board members, nonprofit executives, and CEOs to help them create the system they need to drive both professionally and personally. Using his background as a facilitator, small business expert, and community development specialist, Terry supports his clients as they develop as leaders. Terry believes that leadership is the most valuable, renewable resource available to local communities. He founded B.O.S Consulting to help nurture and support individuals who find themselves in leadership roles. So we're thrilled to have you chat about your work today, Terry, and especially human scale facilitation. But a little bit of background. How long have you been an entrepreneur? How long have you been running B.O.S Consulting?
Well, I founded B.O.S Consulting in 2019 after working for a number of foundations and other nonprofits doing small business consulting. And I just kept running into limitations where there wasn't enough support for the individual.
Mm,
And I kept seeing these peaks and valleys where people would get support and then, hey, great, thanks, bye. And then all the work would just not be, it wouldn't hold. The, uh, the challenges, the stresses, the other um, background problems were just too much for a 6 week class or a 4 week class. Or you have some organizations where it's like, yeah, we're going to support you by giving you 4 hours of professional consulting. And it was breaking my heart to see these people get their hopes up and then crash.
yeah.
So, B.O.S Consulting was my way to be able to provide a longer term, more directed support and hopefully give the organization and the individual long term success.
Mm,
And if you also build long term success for the individual, it's an inoculation for the culture where the employees, the contractors, the next generation leaders don't view the cycle of burnout as normal. And they can see patterns of growth and patterns of flexibility and patterns of acceptance where mistakes are not fatal. Uh, so that was a lot of my thought process, along with um, I have to find a way to help these people.
yeah. And how do you typically find the people that you help? Is it a certain like typology of individuals that you help, or I know you've worked with both nonprofit and for-profit sectors, and so I'm curious how you go about finding your clients.
Well, it's not just one pathway. That's where it gets interesting. Um, I have to, well, the one nice part is for profit business owners. I'm a small business owner right now during the current era. So I'm out there fighting all the same challenges that they're fighting under the same stresses. And it makes it very easy to be on the same page when we start working together. A lot of the current entrepreneurs that find me through Google searches or through my writing on LinkedIn with my Human Scale Facilitation newsletter. I've had people message me and accuse me of putting a bug in their office because the article I wrote about was exactly what they were feeling.
Mhm.
So that comes in as a great way to connect because we've already in some way communicated before they even reach out to me with a problem.
Mhm.
In the nonprofit world, I've been around for a while, and some of the organizations that I've worked with uh, will keep sending me people. So it'll be like, well, this would be nice, but we really think you should talk to Terry. And that's a very heartfelt referral when I get that. And coming from a nonprofit background myself, I have been in those horrible board meetings. I've been in those. staff meetings. I've been in the meetings when the funder gave you 1/3 of what you asked for. So I can also commiserate on that level with the nonprofit world.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned human scale facilitation.
Mhm.
What is this, and how does it help improve the human experience at work?
Well, human scale facilitation is the distillation of decades of work. And what I have found is you have to meet people where they are, or you're never going to be able to have success. No one uh, plan in a can is going to help any organization or any individual. So, talking to the person about their past, their mindset, their challenges, their self worth issues, trust issues, how it affects delegation, all of these things become a fractal that expands into the entire organization. So, human scale facilitation is the next journey for B.O.S. Consulting to be able to support the individual very strategically so that as they grow and build resiliency, it's an inoculation to an organization that's already in trouble.
Mm,
The shortest way to say this is helping them to heal and thrive, and that way the organization mimics it.
mm,
So, leading by example, but giving the leaders the tools and the capacity and the personal bandwidth that they need to be able to take that deep breath and think long term versus putting out the fire.
mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, like, what's the methodology behind human scale facilitation? Is there a lot of assessment for the individual? Like, what does it look like when you start engaging with someone and using this methodology?
It starts off with pattern recognition from the things I've seen in the past as I'm talking to the person, before we even talk about the organizational challenges. And the patterns will show me different types of procrastination, but knowing that procrastination is always a symptom
Mm-hmm,
of something else. It's usually a symptom of fear. It's usually a symptom of I um, I don't think I'm worth this. I don't think I'm capable of this. It also shows up in the reactions when I'm talking to someone and I'm watching their shoulders climb to their ears when they're talking about money, and
mm-hmm,
looking at them, and when they're talking about making a plan for the organization, and you can see the very protective gestures. So there is a little bit of an art form to it, but what I hope to do is be able to teach other facilitators how to recognize these signs,
mm-hmm,
looking for these patterns that show, different data than what the words are saying.
mm,
So someone that can't charge enough to be sustainable, but they also have a bad relationship with money or past trauma from scarcity.
hmm,
And if you can't ask for enough money, then the organization can't get enough grants, or you can't charge properly to be there next week or next year.
mm-hmm,
So, by finding these very human problems, we find solutions that help the entire organization.
mm-hmm, mm. Do you have like a case study you could share, an example about how especially using human scale facilitation helps the organization?
Um, yes, I had a young lady that was going through a lot of stress. She had built an organization and a nonprofit organization, and it grew faster than she ever intended it to grow.
Mm,
She thought she was creating a space just for people to be safe and welcome and be with people like themselves.
mm-hmm,
But it became a community and a larger community. But then that required admin, and then that required scheduling, and then that required a lot of other background tasks that pulled her away from her heartfelt mission.
mm-hmm,
So there were out of place reactions occurring because in her mind, there was no bandwidth left to do anything.
Mm.
So if one small thing went wrong, that mistake wasn't recoverable.
Hmm.
So through our discussions, finding out that she came from a background of beyond scarcity, I would describe it as poverty, which makes her success even that more incredible. That she
Mm-hmm.
was able to do what she did and build the tools and have the self wherewithal to do this. But where the past issues came into place, I'll do it on a shoestring budget because I can help people. I want to help people, but wanting to help people didn't transmit that admin was helping.
Mm-hmm.
Paperwork wasn't helping. So things were falling behind, things weren't being turned in, opportunities were being missed. But after we talked about her relationship with error, that's when all this started to come out.
Hmm.
So then we started to talk about, well, what can we put in place to make you feel safer? And then when she had a personal assistant, which felt like an unbelievable extravagance to her,
Mm-hmm.
the scheduling was right. And then you didn't have to worry about where am I supposed to. The paper forms became standardized. So all those little things came out of reducing her fear. Then that opened her up to be more herself and in bringing her full, complete self to the organization. And that passion was what made the organization thrive.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. Do you find that you mostly do work with those at the executive level? Is that really where human scale facilitation, is best
Mhm.
executed?
Right now, yes. I find that the founder, the president, the owner of the company, those are the people that have gone full speed in. I'm going to do this no matter what. And sometimes they made it farther than they ever thought they would make it. And there's a
Mhm.
bell curve that I use, a very simple bell curve. And unfortunately, it has led to a lot of tears, but it's led
Mhm.
to a lot of awareness, where at the beginning of the bell curve, it's passion. And at the top, it's obligation. And on the
Mm.
bottom side, it's regret.
Hmm.
And if you can map it, then you can reverse it.
Hmm.
And a lot of founders have worked so hard, they feel overwhelmed. Then the employee leaves at 5 o'clock. Well, the founder is still going to be there doing work that they haven't found money to do yet or capacity to complete yet.
Mhm.
And that's where the I'm obligated to be here. That starts to erode the passion to be there. That affects the mission, the messaging, the internal culture, and then you start losing talent.
Hmm.
And the we teach a lot by what we don't say and by what we don't do, and we are very seldom aware that it happens. But if someone sees you there night after night after night, and you've set up an unsustainable level, why would anyone else ever want to replace you or be the next person in charge
Yeah.
when they would have to give up their entire life to do only that? So, being aware of what you're doing by habit, um, that can help bring you back to the human level and
Mhm.
set these sustainable levels up. Because really the best possible thing these founders and owners can bring to the company is their whole complete self because they were the driving force that got things moving.
Hmm. So there's a phrase in the DEI space, or people say, doing DEI right means when people feel like they can bring their whole selves to work. And I always bristle at that because I feel like we shouldn't bring our full selves to work. Like, you shouldn't see me before I, brush my teeth and have my morning coffee, right? Like, you shouldn't see me, when I'm out for, the weekend and I'm out partying or whatever. Like, there's certain selves that I don't want to bring to work. And so I've rephrased it as bringing your best self to work, for work, right? Bring your best self to work. And so I'm curious, like, are there times where when people bring their full selves, that could be detrimental to the productivity in the workplace?
Yes, I should clarify when I say their full selves, I mean all of their talents and all of their abilities.
Mm,
Because there is the challenge where boundaries become difficult. Um, you have to have boundaries with action items or boundaries that actually have if then therefores kind of attached to them. In this um, overworked, stressed out, zero capacity world where these people that are living, they tend to cross boundaries and have muddled areas where they're not socializing, they're not
mm,
seeing their families. So their entire world becomes within the walls of the organization. And then there are substitute friendships or things that we feel are substitute friendships to make up for that. And then that can cloud decision making and how things happen in the office, how things happen in the feel of how the organization operates. And the to the full best self is that talented individual who's thinking about the long-term vision of the organization, someone who is thinking and not surviving.
mm,
Because when we're in fire control mode, we are in survival mode. And all that adrenaline and all the other things that happen at that point um, don't really help for long term solutions.
mm-hmm,
It's all about the how do I stop the pain or the fatigue or the confusion now versus how can I put this in place so that this doesn't happen again
mm-hmm.
or that no other member of the organization has to go through this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So for those watching, and there's a lot of HR people or just people who care about, humans in the workplace, what would be three recommendations, three pointers you'd give for those who want to adopt more of this human scale facilitation style of helping leaders?
I would say that actually getting out of the normal office space that the person inhabits to have conversations with them is a great start
Mm,
because it breaks the pattern of them thinking about what's on the corner of the desk or what's open on the laptop or everything else that's happening in the room.
mm-hmm,
Break the pattern, and that'll open up some of the opportunities to even broach subjects or even give them the opportunity to let you know what's going on. The most valuable tools, plural, in human scale facilitation are these.
mm,
The other thought is thinking long term. Um, a lot of organizations fear getting the next executive director. Fear should we really look at what is the average lifespan of a person in this role? So, being aware that succession planning is a normal, healthy thing, and that listening to the person who's in this leadership position to what do they want next,
mm-hmm,
or even giving them the permission to talk about what's next.
mm-hmm,
That way, you build capacity and organizational structure around a job and not around the talents of one person.
mm,
The third thing I would say is watch for patterns that are happening that look like learned behavior. When a problem happens, someone throws their hands up in the air and slams the door, but three other people in the office are doing that too.
hmm,
Or people in one department are all showing up 15 minutes after the posted start time.
mm-hmm.
Something makes them not want to be there. So, what are the patterns that are showing up in the organization? And it's kind of like that procrastination being a symptom. How do you track it back to the root cause?
Mm,
And the root cause is always what's going to give you the best long term healthy results for the people as individuals and for the organization.
I love it. So get out of the typical work environment, get them to think long term,
Mhm.
and and oh my gosh, what you just said.
Yeah, watch for patterns that are happening that
Look for learned behavior. Look for patterns of learned behavior. Thank you. Thank you. Well, this has been great, Terry. For those who want to learn more about your work or reach out, how do you recommend them getting in touch with you?
well, I have a actually a page started for a landing page for human scale facilitation, which I can share over with you. And we also have bossconsulting.biz is where the main information about everything happens. And
Excellent.
of course, on LinkedIn, the Human Scale Facilitation newsletter that goes out weekly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today, Terry. And thanks for everything you do to help us be better humans at work.